Joining us right now is Wyoming Congresswoman Harriet Hageman, who sits on the House Judiciary Committee, has been doing some great work fighting weaponization. Congresswoman, great to have you on the show.
Good to be back. I always enjoy it.
We love having you on. You've done some amazing work looking at some of the potentially unconstitutional behavior of administrative law judges. And now we have some U.S. district judges who are telling a sitting president his team can't look at executive branch data. I'd like to get your thoughts on the judiciary and whether there's a wake-up moment for it in the soon. And could there even be impeachment proceedings against a few of these judges?
I think what you're saying is that the judges themselves recognize that they're on thin ice and that their decisions are most likely going to be reversed on appeal, but it's a waiting game. It's a matter of time. Can they throw a wrench in this administration, in the momentum that they have been moving forward with, and stop them from being able to enact some of the policies that we all elected President Trump to implement? So that's really what I think you're seeing is a concerted effort where they're judge shopping. They're going to jurisdictions where they know they've got a friendly person on the bench, and they're going to enter whatever decision is necessary to stop what it is, whatever the issue at hand is. I find it shocking that they are now saying judges are actually involving themselves in what needs to be stated on federal websites. I think that just demonstrates the absurdity of what these courts are doing, that they're going so far as to dictate what the president of the United States can have in terms of websites. There's nothing that requires the website at all. Yet, according to these judges, if it has anything to do with their pet projects, they are not going to allow him to change policies. That's clearly so far outside of their jurisdiction, and it's also contrary to what the Article 2 says in the Constitution.
And I think so many Americans have been, it's been a shock to the system to see this, because typically the standard for judgeship is that you don't even donate 1 red cent to any political cause, anything that's partisan. And now we are finding judges out there whose spouses, whose children, in one case, benefited from programs paid for by USAID. In the case of one of President Trump's judges, obviously his daughter's relationship with a marketing campaign that rallied against President Trump. Is it audacity that caused them to think that they could get away with it? What is it?
Corruption. I don't think that I would use the nice word of audacity, although I think that that definitely is a part of this. But I think that there is a level of corruption associated with government largesse anymore. Just as if you watched the interview yesterday in the White House with Elon Musk and the president and Little X, what you saw was an issue that I think is very, very important, which is there are civil servants, there are so-called public servants that may make $150,000 to $200,000 a year, yet have amassed tens of millions of dollars in terms of wealth. Samantha Power, who was the head of USAID under the Biden administration, is a classic example. She was making a couple of $100,000 a year. Her net worth before taking this position was in the millions, which for a public servant, I can't understand that. While being the head of the USAID, her net worth just absolutely skyrocketed. And I think that that's what you're seeing. You talked about the judge in New York who handled the fraud case with President Trump. His daughter made millions off of the fact that she was working for people like Adam Schiff and other Democrats. Her entire business model was attacking Donald Trump. And her father refused to recuse himself. So having practiced law as long as I did, and especially in litigation, I can tell you that I'm actually very shocked at what these judges are willing to do. Number one, with refusing to recuse, and number two, step over the line with them dictating what policy is. I think something else that it demonstrates is that the fact that I've been screaming about the over-bureaucratization of our government and the fact that it's the unelected bureaucrats that are running things, I don't think there's any better example than what these judges have done over the last couple of days of saying it is the bureaucrats that are in charge, not the elected officials. Again, I think we're ultimately going to win this, but I think it shows the hubris and the absolute amount of money that can be made off these various NGOs and having the proximity to power.
Yeah, such a great point. Money and power make people drunk. There's no doubt about it. Congresswoman, you said that some of these judges may be acting contrary to Article 2 of the Constitution. I want to ask a little bit. I talked to Congressman Greg Steube today. He said, listen, it may take an impeachment or two to send a message to the judiciary that you can't start becoming politically weaponized like the Justice Department did. Are there some remedies at hand for lawmakers like yourself? You take the law so seriously, you take the Constitution so seriously. Are there some remedies that lawmakers in Congress may seek to impose before judges get too far down this path of becoming politically weaponized like the Justice Department?
Things that I think that we need to be using in this process is that Rule 65 of the Rules of Civil Procedure. You cannot get an injunction unless you post a bond. And I think that we need to start demanding that the people who are bringing these lawsuits are required to post bonds, which in some cases may be hundreds of millions of dollars. The costs associated with this, the cost of putting a roadblock up against or in front of what Donald Trump is doing, it will have some real impacts on this country. The fact that we have found all of these horrible expenditures coming out of USAID, people want to say, well, he can't stop those. The USAID made those contracts. They made those agreements. I never voted on any of those programs. I don't believe anybody in Congress ever voted that we would be spending, $2 million for a comic book in Peru. Those are not the things that we appropriated money for. And I think that it would be perfectly appropriate to demand that these judges follow Rule 65, which it is not discretionary. It says specifically, I looked at it today, that they shall require the posting of a bond that is equal to what the damages would be in the event that the injunction is eventually overturned. And I think under those circumstances, these judges would be very hard pressed, because then these folks are going to have to go get bonds to actually cover this. So I think that that's an interim step that we should be taking right now. For every injunction that is sought, the Justice Department needs to be seeking a bond of comparable value of the impact of that injunction.
Wow, that's a big idea. One that might catch on real fast, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to shift to something that is very important to your constituents, because Wyoming is a huge energy producing state. I think you guys produce somewhere upwards of 40 million megawatt hours annually, mainly through coal-fired electricity. So we spoke to EPA Administrator Zeldin 2 nights ago, and he was talking about reforming the permitting process and unleashing energy throughout this country. It's obviously not only going to benefit countrywide, but also Wyoming. Are you looking forward to that? How is it going to be implemented in Wyoming?
It's absolutely critical for the economic well-being of the United States. Energy security is national security. We are the largest coal producer in the nation. We are one of the top oil and gas producers, and we have phenomenal high-quality reserves of uranium. It is all of these resources that we need to be tapping into to ensure that we're going to have affordable and reliable energy. One of the things that I really took the Biden administration to task over was that every single policy that they implemented resulted in energy poverty. I don't believe in that. I believe that that is absolutely the wrong-headed way of approaching this. I think that one way of describing it is a way that a good friend of mine used to talk about it, and that is we can be champions of abundance or we can be lords of scarcity. And the Democrats and the Biden administration and the UN and Germany and England and the EU and all of these various, the intellectuals among us, they are attempting to foist and enforce energy poverty on the masses. That is not the purpose of government, especially in the United States, when our government is up by and for the people. So what I am always looking for is I'm looking for the very best process that we can put into place to make sure that we're protecting our environment at the same time that we are producing the resources that we need. The policies that have been in place for the last several years are incredibly regressive to our lower class and our middle class citizens, because it makes energy costs just absolutely skyrocket. We are absolutely rock stars when it comes to producing energy and doing it well and taking care of the environment. I believe that we do need permitting reform. I cannot wait to be working with Mr. Zeldin from the EPA, as well as Doug Burgum with the Department of Interior. And there are several other agencies that we're just going to unleash the power of energy independence, and it's going to benefit every single American.
Yeah, that it is. Real quickly, Congresswoman, we've got to go in a second, but I want to ask you about the anti-woke caucus and its opportunity to continue this war against wokeism and get America back to pragmatism. Tell us a little bit about what the caucus is going to achieve.
So it is a matter of exposing some of the things that have been embedded in our government and how incredibly destructive that they are. I want to say that what Elon Musk has been able to expose has been eye-opening for every single person in this country. There are Democrats who want to caterwaul and yell and scream and, rend their clothing, rip their hair out, things like that, because they're so upset about this. 99% of your average person out there with a lick of sense knows that what we've been funding and what we've been doing around the world is bad. Now, we can look at an agency like USAID and we can say it's a $50 to $60 billion agency, and maybe that's not that much money. I think it's a massive amount of money. But it also, what you have to look at is the kind of rot that it was actually sending out through grants and through funding. What they were doing in other countries, overthrowing countries, undermining their culture, undermining their stability and certainty. It's just amazing. And so much of it goes back to this woke ideology that just really needs to be ripped out by the roots. We need to get back to our Constitution and common sense.
Yeah, a lick of common sense. You said it just right. That's what's been missing in Washington, but it seems to have arrived with you and Elon Musk and President Trump. So a lot of fun ahead for us. Congresswoman, what a great opportunity to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.